You just couldn't rest until you got him in your clutches, could you? Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRSTV. This is your boy Kenny. Now remember, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow all the information I have in the description box as well as the comment section. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. Also, before I get started, I'm a volunteer with GMAC, which is Gay Men's Health Collaborative. If you are in the DMV area and you would like to get tested for HIV, check out the flyers at the beginning of this video and reach out to GMAC if you want to get a home kit. It can be mailed to you, or you can call and set up a same-day appointment where you can come to our location and pick up the kit. And we also have information in which you can get set up for PrEP, which is HIV prevention. Also, if you're a fan of KRSTV, KRSTV now has a Patreon. So, you know, if you want to invest $3 a month, you know, just go over Patreon and you'll get all of my content. And also, there will be private videos that I will also be promoting, you know, just for my Patreons. So definitely check out my Patreon, and also check out my YouTube partner BK WorldTube, which is the black Netflix. You get shows like the Haves and the Have-Nots to RuPaul's Drag Race and Love and Hip Hop. So click that link in my description box and comment section after you watch this review to check out BK WorldTube today. Now this is the Haves and the Have-Nots Season 8 Episode 20, and the name of this episode is The Reaping, and this is the finale. Now for me, this really wasn't much of a finale, but the good thing about it, the Have and the Have-Nots comes back in a month, and it will re-premiere. The new season will premiere on November 24th. So let me begin with this. The episode picked up where it left off with Wyatt and Vinny. He has slit his wrist. He is bleeding out. You know, Wyatt is still trying to offer jewelry and all that. I'm like, bruh, this is the mob. Once your wrist is slit, it's a done deal. There's no coming back from that. Especially not with a mean, evil motherfucker like Vinny. And pretty much he was saying that you're dying. Die. And he's saying that my mom didn't pay. She's like, no, your mother didn't spend a red cent on your ass. And I don't blame her, because you're a piece of shit. And then the next thing you know, we see that Wyatt passes out. Next, I'm going to talk quick about Hannah and Al. He finally he finishes up, you know, advising her on stuff, and she's about to meet with the accountants, and he's still flirting with her. He tells her she's beautiful, and he asks her out to dinner, and you know, she's resistant, of course, and for many reasons. But then he has said that he said you would do this, and she was like, who are you talking about? He said the pastor. He says he told me that you turn men down before you tell them yes. But he says, I like the fact that you're selective. And she's like, yeah, I have to be. I'm like, yeah, because one of your baby fathers was a rapist and the other one was a married man. So yeah, after you're dealing with people like that, you better be selective of who you bring into your life. But then she tells him that, you know, she would love to go out with him, but she needs more time. She got a lot going on. I'm like, yeah, the guy that she was falling for turned out to be her rapist and the father of her child. And then she's just inherited Catherine Cryer's estate. You know, she's the power of attorney. So she has a lot on her plate. But Al definitely is feeling her. But I still got my fillers out on Al. I don't fully trust him. But they had a cute moment, so I was here for it. Alright, so next I'm going to talk about David and Alyssa. See, that damn David just won't learn. And trust, I do not feel sorry for David at all. But as soon as we get a scene with David and Alyssa, she is literally riding him. He tells her to stop. She notices that he's still obviously thinking about Erica. And when she mentions that he should see a psychiatrist, he got very defensive. And then he asks for her phone and tells her to unlock it and take off her password, and then gives her a new phone. So he's actually going along with this idea of her being a kept woman and all of that. You know, she's like, well, I want to be a kept girl and you're a good guy. And he's like, I'm probably the wrong guy. She's like, no, you're a good guy. And then while he's going through her phone, he asks about some guy named Nicky. She says that he's her ex-boyfriend. He's like, well, why is he texting you so much? He's like, you know what we just did, right? Yeah, okay. And then pretty much she was saying that, then all of a sudden she brings up, so when are we going to talk about my new house? And he was like, new house? I thought you said you wanted an apartment. She's like, yeah, but you rich. So I'm like, what in your mind possessed you to think that this girl wasn't going to try to shake you, David? As soon as she said she wanted to be a kept woman, you should have put her ass out right then and there. But because you obviously were attracted to her, because remember she was stripping up in that fountain, David did not move. He was locked. So we know David wanted to screw her. He was attracted to her. And he's like, I'm not getting you no house. And she's like, one way or another, you're going to give me a house. And he's like, what do you mean by that? She says, you'll see. This girl literally pulls a Brandy move from A Thin Line Between Love and Hate and literally shoves her arm in the door and starts screaming rape. She go downstairs. The security guard is like trying to help her, but she's just panicking. He raped me! Call the police! And then ran out the house. And then he looked at David like, at first I thought he was profiling David, but I think it's also due to the fact that this bitch has been coming to your house trying to throw herself onto you, and yet you caved in. And then like he just tells the security to go after her, but I'm like, you did this to yourself, David, and I don't feel sorry for you, because you should have let that thirsty bitch out there where she stood. You should have never let her into your domain and let her slop your bird, and now she's extorting you, for a house. That's what happens when you mess with hoes. Hoes will flip on you in a hot second. Alright, so now that I got that out the way, let me talk about this damn Veronica. Oh, wait a minute. No. Let me wait. First, I gotta talk about Candace, Mitch, and Benny. Mitch calls Candace and lets her know that Benny knows about Derek, and that he came to the bar and he was mad as hell. And she says, okay, well, won't you just tell him I asked you to lie? He's like, no, I don't want to do that, because that's going to put him on that, me and you been talking. I'm like, boo-boo, y'all been doing more than talking over the years. Y'all used to go with each other, and he pretty much says, I'm not going to tell him that, and he says, I never told him that you said it. But she says that, can you find the address, because he says that, Benny's probably going to go look for this guy. She says, can you find an address? And he's like, okay, I'll do, I'll definitely look into it and I'll get back to you. Next thing you know, finally Benny comes into the hotel room. He is enraged. He is going off. Why did you lie to me? Why did you and Mitch lie to me? Let me see your phone, Candace. I want to see if you and Mitch been talking to each other. Do you know that dude Derek raped mommy? And she says, where did you find this out from? And he told her Veronica Harrington. And she's like, how would she know about that? Well, one, she used to represent Derek. But then she says that, well, it's Veronica. She knows everybody. And Candace begins to tell Benny that happened a long time ago. And as bad As it is, I wouldn't be here. Because yes, she's the product of the rape. And she pretty much tells him that, look, you need to let this go. And he's like, I don't understand. But she's like, look, and Candace lets him know, look, it's a process. I'm working through it. Mom's working through it. She's like, oh, so mom is just okay with this too? And she says she chose not to see him anymore, but it's gonna take her some time. And then he was like, I just can't believe y'all would just let this go, really? And Candace says something so profound. She says, you'd be amazed the amount of the things women have to let go just to get through life. I was like, wow, the power of black women. A comment like that made me respect black women even more, because so many of our women go through so much, and yet they are still standing tall and standing strong and still providing for their children and still doing what they got to do to live. That's commendable. That's power. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, that may be the case, but I'm still pissed at you and Mitch. And she says, get over it. And I'm like, yeah, Benny, you just need to let this go. I mean, and if anything, the person who should really be the most enraged is Candace, because Candace is a product of this shit. And then she tells Benny, well, everything's gonna be all right. We'll get through this. And he's like, well, that's easy for you to say. She looked at him and was like, I'm his daughter. No more needed to be said. Now, this damn Veronica, the succubus from hell, she was showing her royal ass this episode. She first meets up with the hitman, and she pretty much says, I'm really getting tired of being cooped up in this house. And he says, then why don't you go out? And she's like, but is it safe? And he's like, you'll have me around, you'll be fine. And she was saying, so what's going on with Jim? And he says, she asks about Jim. She also asks about his wife, and she says, well, his wife's in jail. She's like, oh, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about David. I was like, oh. And he says that, well, he's probably in between home and the hospital somewhere. So he's telling everybody. And then she asks him, find out who's trying to take me out. And the way he looked at her when he walked away, I don't trust this hitman at all. I mean, who knows? He may be working with a kill on the low, and that they both are working to trap her ass. I mean, because Veronica is paranoid because she don't know who's trying to take her out. Because I think that little hood boy Ramon, who she called him little slimy thing, I think he's the one that cut the wires, because all of a sudden all these goons was in our house and she didn't even know they were there. So I think he was the one that cut the wires of her camera. So she got enemies all over the place. So now that she can go out, Miss Thing decides to pay a visit to Justin, and she's banging on the door, and he's like, who is it? She says, it's the real queen. Open the door, bitch. And Tanner ends up opening the door, and she immediately goes in on Justin, saying, so did you and Jeffrey send those little girls to my pool? And then all of a sudden, Tanner's like, who the hell is this? Who are you? And she says, I'm that bitch. That's all you need to know. And who are you? And he was like, I'm his brother. She's like, wow, something made two of you? I was like, damn, Veronica, you disrespectful bitch. Oh, that had me tickled, like, damn. She just shitted on their whole family tree. And pretty much Justin tells her that, look, I had nothing to do with that. I don't know what you're talking about. I had nothing to do with that. But little do they know, Kobe is pretty much the person that was involved with Justin as well as Veronica. Little do they know they got Kobe in common. And also Kobe whooped Tanner's punk homophobic ass last week, which I said, MVP. He still gets that because I was so here for him attacking homophobia. And pretty much, Tanner's still asking who she is, and before she leaves, she was like, oh yes, who I am is Jeffrey Harrington's mother. Yes, Jeffrey Harrington, the boy that your brother sexually assaulted in the back of the police car. He's into things like that. And you can see in Tanner's face, Tanner was heated. And then he starts like, what the hell is she talking about? What the hell is going on, Justin? Like, you need to tell me what the hell is going on. And then Justin's like, okay, I'm just so tired of this. I'll talk. So he's about to spill the beans. Then we go to Madison's apartment. Madison and Jeffrey are talking. We can definitely tell that Madison feels some kind of way because Jeffrey and Kobe have gotten a little chummy with each other. And he was like, so do you like him? And Jeffrey's like, well, I like the fact that he's fearless. Yes, something that you're not, Jeffrey, because you're a little bitch. And then he's like, are you jealous? And he's like, oh no, he's my friend. Madison, your ass is jealous. Cut the bullshit. And then Jeffrey decides that he wants to take them to dinner and that we can talk, about us. And then he's like, so what did Kobe say to you about me? And he was saying, well, what he did is that he helped me to see you better. Which Kobe did. But then the next thing you know, before they about to leave, somebody just comes in the apartment and it's Veronica. It's like the hitman put an Energizer battery in her back and she just keeps going and going and going, causing all kind of chaos and bullshit. So she immediately goes in, she talks all this shit to them, girl this and girl that, and he's like, and they trying to tell her to get the hell out of here and shit, and he's like, how the hell did you get in here anyway? Well, she says, well, you bitches are so busy using flat wrists, you forgot to lock the door. And I was just like, Veronica, it's like you just have a death wish for real because you keep fucking with everybody. You got motherfuckers out here trying to kill you, and yet you're still out here fucking with people. And you don't give a damn. And she just kept coming for them. And then Jerry's like, you need to get the hell out of here. She's like, what you gonna do? He's like, you remember what I did to your ass the last time? And she's like, yeah. And I want your bitch ass to do it again. He's like, oh, I will. And Madison's like, you need to get the hell out of here. And you need to go. And she was like, oh really? I never knew a girl could have so much bass in her voice. And she was like, you know what? You need to take your fake ass out of here. And she's like, oh no, don't you touch my $5,000 dress. She was like, bitch, please, I saw this shit on the rack for $85. She's like, oh, so you go to women's stores. And next thing you know, Kobe walks in. And immediately her and Kobe go back and forth. And she's like, there it is. And she's like, oh, here you go with that itch shit again. And she says, and pretty much, they was like, Madison was like, Kobe, don't. And all of a sudden, she's like, oh, Kobe what? And he says, Kobe Jones Willis. And then he's like, what the hell are you doing here? I ain't see your broom outside. And then Kobe tells Jeffrey, look, you need to stand up to this bitch, this wannabe. And she's like, excuse me, wannabe? Yeah, wannabe flashy, but you really unclassy, wearing that $85 dress I saw on the rack. And I'm like, damn, both of them clocked her for that damn dress. And then all of a sudden, Kobe's like, oh, so she don't want to leave? Let's give her a show. And, try to, make out and stuff like that. And then she's looking at Jeffrey, and Jeffrey ain't moving. She's like, go ahead, Jeffrey. This is what you're about now. And we see that Jeffrey is still scared, and he's still afraid of really telling Veronica off. But then as soon as she leaves, she starts talking all this crap like, oh, okay, I'll leave. Kobe Jones Willis. Kobe Jones Willis. Yeah, you gotta roll them S's, girl. Roll them, honey. Yes. like, Veronica is so fucking messed up. And then as soon as she left, Kobe's like, okay, we need to sage this bitch. And then he was like, I need a drink because I had one hell of a date. Little do they know, that date was with Justin's crazy ass and his run-in with his homophobic brother. But we gonna get the tea probably when the season reappears. So now I'm gonna discuss. Yeah, here we go. Now I'm gonna discuss, Laura, Samuel, and Veronica. Now, Laura is on cloud 9 because she got all of these fineries from Veronica, including the wig. Samuel is getting really irritated with her because he's like, I don't trust this chick. Derek told us not to trust her, and here you are all giddy and shit. And she says that, look, she got, this is some nice stuff. I don't care. I love this. I mean, shoot, I can see myself wearing nice things and living in her house and everything. I mean, after all, you can't provide any of this stuff. And I was like, boo-boo. Now you need to stop, because that ain't the reason why you got with him. You didn't get with him because he had money. You got with him because he breaks in your back and he clears your throat. Dun 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 dun. Every kiss begins with Right, come on, that's why you married him. Stop it. He tearing you up, with that fine Adonis body that he got. And he pretty much says that, shit, I will have money once I take down this old bitch. And then she's like, yeah, but you better not sleep with her. She's like, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, she says, well, you told me she be flirting. She's like, yeah, she's flirting, but I ain't about that, so won't you drop it? And then all of a sudden, she's like, I'm sorry, baby. She starts crying and it's like, kiss me. And he's like, yeah, I'll kiss you once you take off that crazy ass wig. Hell, if I want to sleep with a wig, I'll just go over to her house. I was like, boy, that was the wrong thing to say. So she got her feelings in, went to go take a shower. He gets a text from Veronica asking, call me when your wife's not around. He texts her back, no. She sends him a money pic. He immediately calls her. So I'm like, she found your weakness, bruh. Her weakness was the clothes and the fineries. Yours is cash. So she calls and she's in her sexy nightie. She's saying, come over. He's like, Veronica, I'm married. And she's like, so I did some research on you. Who's Regina? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, that was a long time ago. She's like, yeah, whatever. You need to leave that little girl at home, and I can show you what a real woman can do. And he eventually shows up. She tries to offer him a drink, but he keeps denying her the drink. And she says, I told you I don't drink. And she says, yeah, and you told me you were faithful, and we know that shit was a lie. And he pretty much confirms that Regina is his side piece. So, oh boy. I think that damn Laura, when she puts everything together, we're going to see another side of that woman. And Veronica ain't going to see it coming, child. So they go upstairs and everything, and she starts flirting with him, asking, did you think I'm attractive? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, what's the problem? He's like, I just don't feel right about this. He still got Derek in the back of his mind that you can't trust her ass. So they go upstairs. But before they go upstairs, while they're on the way up the stairs or whatever, she was like, oh yeah, I've been doing some fillers on both of you guys. Talking about your son and stuff. Y'all ain't got no kids. Like, what are y'all really up to? And he's like, well, what you up to? So they go into the room, and her bed is full of money, and you can see his damn antennas just shot right up. Got his attention. And she's like, so that's what you up to? Hustling old bitches? And he's like, what are you talking about? She says, well, ain't that what the two of you are up to? I'll tell you what. Won't you leave that little girl and those petty crimes and let me upgrade you? I'm like, really, Beyonce? And she tells him to drink. He gets a drink, finally, because she done pulled his leg, and she's like, good boy. So won't you show me what you can and can't do? Baby, Samuel stripped down and was serving body yada yada. Woo! And then she says, he's like, do you got condoms? She says, yes, go over there, they're in the box, pick your color. He comes back with the gold, which means it's the maximum. So Samuel is packing. He got a baseball bat. He got some eggplant that he about to serve to her Parmigiana. So next thing you know, they get it in, and Veronica got her red bottoms in the air, literally clicking like there's no place like home, honey. And I was like, woo! I'm like, how do we know she ain't set no boy up and she gonna play that shit to his wife, because she says she's gonna make this her little secret, but we know Veronica's dirty. Then the last scene, we see this lady is walking her dog, and she discovers Wyatt passed out in the car, and she's like, she calls somebody and says that she calls the 911 and says she found the dead man in the car. The question is Wyatt really dead? I mean personally, we just gotta find out, because you know how Tyler moves. But that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, get down in the comments and let's talk about it. Again, the Have and Have Nots come back November 24th. I will be back in a month, and I can't wait. So until next time, everyone, take care.